All right, friends. A little bit of a slow start to the Flux meeting today, but today is November 27th. We're in the US time zone slot, I think, for the meeting, the late meeting. And we've got a couple of things to talk about. So hopefully the screen share is coming through on the recordings. I'll need to update a new recording link here later on. But the FluxCon videos and KubeCon videos are out. So there's a bunch of juicy information in there. Actually, right before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the use cases that were spoken about at FluxCon with Flux at scale on many, many, many hundreds to thousands of clusters. So really cool stories there. We'll hydrate the links in the docs here. Also, the KubeCon videos are up. So the AI assisted GitOps talk from our very own Stefan is there, and then also Stefan and Deepti's talk about Gitless GitOps and a bunch of other related Flux things. So we'll probably be updating the KubeCon site with those links as well. Matthias, do you want to maybe talk about some of the bug fixes that you shipped? And I will try to take some copious notes so we can share some context. And you're on mute, Matthias, if you can't hear me.
Hi,
There you go.
cool. So, this week we released two patch releases. 2.7.4 on Tuesday or Monday, and today 2.7.5. Um, 2.7.4 had a bunch of fixes. I think in the last meeting, Stefan went through all of them. But if I recall, it's the RBAC for artifact generator and the aggregated roles that were missing. It was the Helm schema validation bug that was fixed on Helm upstream, and we were able to bump and ship. Um, yeah, you have a list there, right? Um, the watches, the feature gate to disable the config map and secret watches because of the RBAC issue. Um, what's more? Yeah, Azure workload identity in Azure China Cloud. Also, an upstream fix, and I think a couple more. Yeah, some CLI fixes. Yeah, and today we released a patch because it was just one bug, but a really serious one, which was etcd getting filled up when you use the retry on failure strategy that was released in 2.7. So with in Flux 2.7, we released this new strategy for Helm controller, Helm releases that allows a behavior that is closer to um, customized controller in terms of the state machine of reconciliation. So for example, there's no limit on retries like the default, right? So we don't have that problem of getting into a terminal state where the controller gives up on retrying, which is what customized controller ever did, right? Always did. So this implementation missed trimming the history in the status, and that can be pretty bad. Like its recovery is like downtime guaranteed. You can't even like if the CRD exceeds the limits, the size limit, you would not even be able to suspend the object to delete it without deleting the applied resources, right? That's how you like how in Flux how you can delete an applier without the resources they apply. You suspend it and then you delete it. You couldn't even do that to like trim the history if it crossed this point of being too large. So this is fixed in 2.7.5 released today. So yep, I guess that's my highlight for today.
Nice. It's a really solid coverage of this bug fix. Just to qualify that a little further, this would be like the per resource size limit in etcd, and not necessarily something that fills up etcd um un unbounded. So, and then the failure mode is also per resource. So at least this is only causing resources to get stuck. But anyway, we have the bug fix. So go and patch Flux, please, if you're on 274. Um, okay, great. That's just a little bit of announcements on the Flux patch series. Guess like moving on kind of to open topics again. We'll get the playlists updated in the docs. I can kind of do that. But Augie, did you want to talk a little bit about the Captain and Flux integrations that you were thinking about? Then I can sort of
Sure. Yeah, by the way,
take
I
note.
already retrieved the FluxCon videos. Do you paste the pure and plain URL into the minutes, or how do you do that? Because I'd be
Yeah,
happy.
feel free
Yeah,
to put the
I'll do
FluxCon
that
playlist right in there. Thank you.
after I'm done with my summary then. Um,
Hmm.
as you guys know, a while back, I talked about an interest on the part of Deutsche Telekom to integrate Captain with Flux. And we went through a number of patterns and didn't go anywhere until recently we found a company in the United States, QMB. Some of you guys probably know the likes of like Angel Ramirez, who's the proprietor of that company. They have worked with Captain, and they agreed to build a prototype that we are going to be demonstrating to DT next week. We vetted a list of 34 metrics that, on the one hand, Deutsche Telekom is interested in seeing implemented as a basis for making change and upgrade decisions to deployed payloads in their cluster as a service environment. And QMB guys came back and agreed that those metrics could be leveraging code that had already written for Captain tasks. So to make a long story short, next week we'll be demonstrating to DT a collection of 9 of these metrics and show how data that is gathered from operating a open 5G core workload in a flux controlled cluster can be used to make decisions about whether or not to deploy. That's the so-called pre-deployment task in Captain. Whether or not a deployment has actually succeeded, that's being verified using a post-deployment task. And then last but not least, something that I think is also something that people operating Flux would be quite keen to see is how you can use data coming from both the workload as well as the Flux and Kubernetes environment for monitoring and observability purposes, difficult word, Those data are going to be rolled into um, uh, decision points that allow so-called evaluation tasks to make decisions as to whether or not changes have to be affected to any of the deployed workloads. Um, and again, from the nature of the metrics that we're going to be dealing with, I think this is something that is going to be something that Deutsche Telekom audiences are going to be resonating with. We hope that this is going to be of interest to a larger industry audience. So after the demo next week, I think I'll have a recording. And so if you guys are interested, I'd be happy to either excerpt some of the stuff that we have shown to DT, as well as make available the recording for you guys to watch on your own time. That's essentially what I can tell you about the demo at this point, and I'll keep you posted as we go along.
That'll be a really amazing convo to, yeah, watch a recording of. The use case is definitely compelling.
Yep.
In it, we
Yeah.
it's common knowledge that Flux is used, in a lot of the big telcos at pretty wide scale because it it fits a very nice niche,
Yep.
like of being deployed securely and in a trustworthy way, on a cell tower.
Yep.
And so I imagine that kind of fits here with the Deutsche Telekom kind of story.
Yeah. And I'm
Um,
sure other operators like BT is another user of Flux, or Orange in France,
yeah.
Swisscom, Telstra. And for that matter, I'm particularly happy that we agreed to use the Open 5G Core implementation, which, by the way,
Mm,
is very closely aligned with what Deutsche Telekom have deployed for their production 5G Core application, which is based on the Mavini implementation. So, yeah, um, as I said, I'll keep you posted as we go along.
mhm. It's funny, I totally didn't even realize that I was like also screen sharing this YouTube search of the links for the KubeCon videos. But I think should
Yeah,
be
okay. So I need not do it
good.
myself then.
Yeah, I figured that I kind of knew the titles as well for like what I would be looking for with Stefan's talk. So this might be kind of paste them in already. And oh no, I closed my window. I'm gonna need that back. Here we go. Flux Dev agenda. Here's the fumbling, my friends. Really fumbling today on the window manager. Flux Dev agenda.
You must be jet lagged.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go. Do this. Start the share one more time here. And then at least I was able to, hopefully these links work. Maybe. Yeah, great. So the video links are in there for some of the FluxCon and KubeCon videos. Maybe not a fully complete list. I know that there's a great talk from a fellow named Jag as well. So I'll put that in there. But um, yeah, okay. Patch notes. Thanks, Augie, for talking about this use case with Captain and Flux. I'm going to be really interested to see the follow-ups for these combos. So any way that you're able to share some of that information would be really cool. Um, I guess there was also maybe a talk about the how the Flux status page could be useful in that situation.
Sorry, what was the
Uh,
question for me?
Yeah, I just know that you and I were talking about the status page a little bit and some of the benefits, but that's just like, you know, some of the
Yeah,
properties
I
of
need to
status
take a
page.
closer look at the status page and then kind of form an opinion as to how this is going to feed into the work that we're doing with with Captain rather.
Yeah, it's exposed directly by the Flux operator,
Yep.
add-on, and it's read only, and the web server is from Flux operator itself, and this is fed by the controller runtime caches that Flux operator um, already has to monitor Flux APIs. So that's what makes it performant. And there's no need to interact directly with the Kube API server. Uh, this like works really nicely, for like looking at a stats page. Um, what am I trying to express here? Works really nicely, like with say a mobile phone on a VPN. You know, something like that.
Yes.
And one example, I could probably put this link, in here pretty safely without that that cluster's not always running. But I mean, if you want to go and dork around with the deployment of the D2 um, workflow, then like here's a decent like read-only view of an EKS cluster that's running the D2 architecture. So you get this is like Flux controllers itself. Here's like the reconcilers, so we can check on our Flux instance. You can go and see the spec for the Flux instance itself. So this is, for just a single cluster. The instance has an inventory of all of Flux. Similarly, what about all the Helm releases? You or I'm in the resources view, but you can also look at like the Helm release events. So, like, it's nothing really that's happened recently, I suppose. Here's some customization events. Reconciliation finished recently for some customizations. Go back to the resources, maybe filter for customizations, and then over here you can see, the inventory for a particular customization, how it's configured, what source it's pointing to, um, how many times it's properly reconciled. So pretty cool stuff. And the mobile view for this is really nice. You can search, you know, feel like here's like the front end apps. And, yeah, and it's just some dark and light mode, but my browser's in like forced dark mode right now. That's kind of what the status page looks like. Go and check it out. Work around, deploy Flux operator yourself, and see how that experience is for you. So, that's kind of the end of our agenda. Does anyone else have stuff that they wanted to talk about? Otherwise, we're kind of just going into December, and we've got a bunch of changes lining up for next year. Notable is that I am chasing down a bug in Helm controller. And it's a bug specifically uh, regard to post renderer patches. Um, not applying when they update on Helm release that is currently upgrading. There's a tracking issue that we have here with the digests. And I have a local reproduction of this and I'm cleaning up the reproduction. I'm going to do a regression test on it. Um, so yeah, my plan is to go from my local repro to minimal repeatable repro and then into a test that I can then regression test across Flux versions to figure out how this got into Helm controller. When has it been there for all of time? Did we break something in a release? I just want to understand how this happened because the state machine of Helm controller is obviously something that's really important to be able to trust. Hopefully, we have not introduced other bugs or that, you know, it's always possible that there's stuff lurking. But uh, thank you to the end users who found this and notified me, and we're gonna go fix it. So that's just kind of what's going on in Flux Dev at the moment, at least in my backyard. But great. Oh, and the workaround for this bug right now is to force reconcile. Um, we'll fix this stale desired state. That makes sense. So great. Um, if there's no other topics, I'd like to invite us to adjourn our meeting early, and we can all get back to our workflows. But I relish the time to meet with you all every week.
Yep. Um,
Sweet.
by the way, maybe, well, I guess unless maybe Kingdom can run the next one, I guess we won't be able to, right? Or deeply, I don't know. Next week.
Um, Next week, I would imagine that we would be able to have our meeting at the normal time. Is there a conflict on our calendar, Mateus?
Oh, actually there isn't. There's no
Yeah, we
conflict.
can. I
Yeah.
think that it'll actually be really good for us to be able to just run the meeting normal time frame.
Yeah.
So that's the EU time slot, and we'll all be
Yeah, yeah.
uh
I
Yumi and
thought,
Stefan will be physically together. So yeah.
yeah. Uh, uh, yeah. You don't know yet, right? I'm coming too earlier.
Okay, great. Sweet.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, yeah.
yeah, no changes for next meeting. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think at the end of our agenda here, I'm just going to stop the recording and we can dork around talking about logistics and stuff um, off of the YouTube recording here. Um, Stop recording. Bye, friends who are watching us on online, and see you on the next meeting.
Mm.